Welcome to the Driving the World podcast series. I'm your host, Cully Holland. Today we have Colton Edge, a product and application engineer from our corporate electronics group. We'll be discussing our e-covers for the MOVI-MOT and the MOVI-C series. Hey, Colton, thanks for joining us again.
Yeah, glad to be back, man.
All right, so last time we were chatting about our MOVI-MOTs and the flexible, the advanced, the performance, and our MOVI-C family. And we ended talking about the e-covers, and you were telling me one e-cover could work for any three of them. So I felt like we could dive into that a little bit more. So how in the world does that work?
Yeah, so that's kind of the beauty of SEW is we've taken all of these different controls. There's one way to control an asynchronous motor, there's one way to control a servo motor, and we've found a way to incorporate it all into the same electronics. So no matter what application you have, we can cover it.
That is amazing. So when we're talking about this, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is that could really help cutting down on spares and inventory. But is it as simple as just a physical dimension, or are there some other parameters that our customers need to think about?
Right. So maybe we can start with if you were to look on the underside of the e-cover, you would notice a little, we call it a DIM module. It's kind of like saying ATM machine. It's drive identification module. And so what that is that tells the drive, what it is. What it does is it holds all of the parameters that you can set up inside of MOVI Suite so that whenever you have to have a replacement or anything, what you can do is you can just remove that module, put it into a similar size, similar dimension cover, and put it back on. So it makes replacement very easy.
That is amazing. And you quickly mentioned MOVI Suite. Hopefully, our listeners have been with us and they've listened to a couple of our MOVI Suite podcasts. But quick review, that is the software that is used to control, program, and kind of work with all of our electronics in the MOVI-C family, right?
Yeah. So in there, you can do something called a drivetrain startup.
Okay.
And so with that, you can actually go in and you tell. It was very similar to what we had in the old generation, except now it's all cleaned up. And if you've seen Movie Suite, it looks kind of like a rocket ship. It's very streamlined and makes it a lot easier, a lot simpler to go through. So if you have a asynchronous motor, you can go in, tell it that you're working with this specific asynchronous motor. If you have a servo motor, you go and give it the characteristics of that servo motor. What do you think happens if you have a third-party motor?
I'm hoping you tell me, because before I don't know if we could have handled it.
Well, luckily we could, but now you can still do third-party motors. So all you need is just standard information that is typically found on the nameplate. You just go in, tell the drive what it's attached to, and the drive will do all the math and all the control for you.
That is amazing. So you're saying we have an asynchronous motor, we have a servo motor from SCW, maybe a third party motor. So advanced performance, that's asynchronous, that's servo. The flexible, we mentioned it a little bit in our last podcast. Is it stuck to one motor or the other, or kind of how does it fit into that motor profile?
No, so luckily now there's a couple ways that you can do this motor startup. You can do like we've talked about. You can go into MOVI Suite. You can tell the drive what motor it's actually running, be it a asynchronous servo or a third party, whatever. So for the flexible, that's what we're able to do. However, you may think, okay, Colton, what if I have a MOVI-MOT Advanced, and how does it know what's attached to it? Do I still have to go in and set it up?
Tell me.
So that's the beauty, is we have a thing called MOVI-Link DDI now, where we actually store electronic nameplate on the device itself. So whenever you power on, the device will recognize what it's connected to, and all through a single cable, or however you're connected to it for the advanced and the performance directly mounted on there. You can also do it for the flexible and do it through a single cable, and essentially it'll just send over that electronic nameplate so that you don't have to actually insert anything unless you wanted to add some sort of user units or additional transmission, something like that.
So that sounds like a huge benefit to using an SEW motor with our decentralized portfolio, is it's automatically recognizing and knowing all the technical information based on those motors just coming through the electronic nameplate that you just mentioned. So, I mean, that's awesome. And we were already saying it can go in between with a dim switch or a dim card.
So the underside of the e-coverage, we're talking about the DIM module. There
DIM
are
module.
also dip switches
Okay.
that you can set that have, depending on the device, different options that you can tell it if it's allowed to do this or this, and different setup options.
So we just need a DIM module, make sure we have our dip switches set up. And if it's SEW, it's got its electronic nameplate, so it's going to know whatever motor it's sitting on.
As long as you have that DDI option, yes.
That DDI single cable technology. And are we concerned at all about communication types with our decentralized portfolio or?
No, so with the decentralized portfolio, we actually have 4 different, we'll call them e-cover communication families. So we have our, a lot of people are probably familiar with the old MOVI-C binary control, where
Right.
you can just hook up and run it with inputs and outputs 24 volts. We have the, it's DAC, which is our Aussie control. If people are familiar with that, we are able to accommodate for that. We have now what we call DSI, which is our S Bus Plus control. So it's EtherCAT based. So if you're an EtherCAT person out there, we have you covered. And then we have DFC, which is our field bus control, and that's going to be your more standard Ethernet, Profinet, Modbus TCP, all that. We're able to handle almost any form of modern day field bus that's out there.
So it sounds like if our customers want to talk to it, they're going to be able to talk to it and communicate with our decentralized e-covers pretty easily. They just got to make sure they select the right one for their application.
Right. And luckily, compared to our old generation of stuff, it's actually all built into the unit. So you now no longer need any other field bus module out there.
Well, that is awesome. I mean, I know I just learned a ton about these e-covers and I liked them before. I love them now. Is there anything we've missed or any other cool tidbits or facts that you want to bring up?
I think we've covered just about as much as we can right now.
Well, fantastic. Colton, thanks for coming back. Thanks for chatting about our e-covers. Hope to see you soon.
Thanks, man.